Good morning and welcome to the Cyber Agony Uncles for April. I'm Uncle Stevie.
And I'm Uncle Rich. Good morning.
So, Uncle Rich, what have you got for us today?
So, this is a break from the norm. We actually have one of our listeners write in with a personal problem. So, proper Acne Uncle stuff here. So, I'm going to read the question out right now. I'm a security analyst with 4 years' experience. Prior to that, I worked in IT infrastructure for 3 years after years of help desk roles. I'm in my early 30s. Now, I'm not getting any younger, and I'm feeling the need to move into leadership with a view to climbing the corporate ladder in the next couple of years. I've been keeping an eye on LinkedIn and the job boards to see what my potential career path may look like. Ultimately, I'd like to reach a board level role, maybe a CISO or CIO, in the next 10 years or so. But what I'm seeing is that the CISO and CIO roles are few and far between. And CISO roles don't seem to either pay well or be true, genuine senior roles. What's going on? Why does the role have a C-level job title, but then often report into IT, CTOs, or CFOs? Is the hierarchy in cybersecurity broken? Do I have a long-term future in cyber?
Oh, that's an interesting question. He says,
Isn't it
stroking his
just?
beard. Where does one begin? Why, I think, would be my starting point. Why? Why would you want to go for? Why would anybody want to be a CISO? I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't know.
of all of the really terrible roles, I mean, why is that the one that you would aspire to?
It's probably one of the most thankless tasks in cyber.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you look at what happened in the States, I think particularly last year, maybe the year before as well, there was various CISOs who got hauled over the coals in front of judges for
Yeah,
either lying at the behest of the board, I might add, or obfuscating the truth somewhat, just to put it mildly, or some that have just done an all out bad job, but they seem to carry all of the risk.
yeah. I mean, there's that old saying, isn't it, that if you take a risk to the board and they agree that the right treatment is to accept the risk, what they actually mean is that we accept that you now carry this risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in a lot of ways, especially in sort of business terms, a lot of British businesses do follow the patterns that you see in the United States. It's like the companies in the States are early adopters of something.
Yeah.
We're sort of 5-10 years behind in terms of corporate behaviours, and it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing UK-based CISOs being hauled up in front of the judge for similar things.
I think it's. I don't know quite how US corporate law works, but I think in the UK, ultimately, it's the CEO that generally carries the can for things. And that
Yeah, and we
there's a limit to how far down the organisation that can be delegated.
yes, and we do see that reflected in standards like ISO 27001,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
absolutely do state that the CEO is is the most senior sponsor and is accountable for cybersecurity.
yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think that's both kind of morally right, but I think it's also legally the way it goes.
Yeah,
But one of the things I think we ought to look at for this particular question is what's the motivation to move out of a specialism and into a leadership role. What is a genuine sub question? Why would you do that? What is the point that you do that? Is it just because societal norms measure your value by the fact that you've managed to end up with a team of people? Are you one of these people that feels motivated by how big your team is or how large your budget is or whatever it is? I mean, in the end, um, my experience is that these things don't necessarily end up resulting in a more satisfying job role, except for a few people who particularly are suited to those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only thing we've got to go on really in that question around that is that they say they're not getting any younger. So,
Which is quite funny if you think the
yeah.
person's in their 30s.
Oh yeah,
I was, how old was I? I was in my, I was about 50 when I started the business with Eliza. So I think this person has a little while to go.
yeah, absolutely. You know, careers are very much a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess there are certain expectations that come with age around seniority, moving up that ladder. You know, alongside all the usual things, mortgages and kids and stuff. You know, so it might
Okay.
be that
So
they're feeling the pressure.
I mean, if the motivation is financial, as in, to cut to the chase, if they want more money, is going into a leadership role the right thing to do? So yes, you get very well paid if you happen to be on a leadership track, in, say, Morgan Stanley or whatever it might be, or Citibank or something. Otherwise, yes, you will probably be better paid on a leadership, on a managerial track than you are in as a security analyst, but it's not necessarily taking you to where you want to be. There are
No, absolutely.
if you actually just want to go and make a lot of money out of being doing security, get trained up into something as a genuine specialism and go off and consult in it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Take the risk, because the risk is mirrored by the reward in that sense, which is something I think at a government level we've sort of forgotten these days. But overall, you're in a better position not going into a leadership role if you just want to go and make money.
Yeah, I mean, leadership isn't the be all and end all.
No,
If,
not by a long way.
as you say, if you are looking for money, then there's other ways to get it. Other ways that are potentially easier as well. True leadership can be very tricky at times,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
know, and it's an entirely different skill set from being an individual contributor. So
Yeah,
it's one thing to be highly technically skilled, but often those people don't make the best leaders. I mean, we've seen it in the development world, where companies want to hire a CTO, but what they really want is a lead software developer.
yeah. So I
Um,
think that
and they get put in
that's
there and it falls apart.
yeah, absolutely. I think that that's part of what this particular person has spotted. CISO can mean anything from senior SOC analyst right the way up to a genuine board level role. It's a title given to people in order to entice them away, or to another, to a new company, or to keep them because they're being enticed away to another organization. And what the role actually entails, I think, has now become so vague that you need to look at, regardless of what the title is, you need to look at every specific job, every specific instance, quite carefully to understand what it is that you will be doing. But to get from a security analyst to a leadership, the senior, to be on the senior leadership team, or the exco, in 10 years from security analyst is quite a challenge anyway, I would have said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of who you're competing with at that level, uh, you're often competing with the greybeards, people with 25 years plus experience who are just getting around to that sort of level of role. And so there is a chance that a 10-year time frame is way too short.
Yeah. Also, if you're in a larger corporate, you let's be, we don't mess about, do we, on this podcast?
No.
You've missed the boat. You're not on the right track. Your background probably doesn't put you in the right place to get to be CISO in a large corporate. Those sorts of roles, are things that people are prepared for throughout their career. So they end up, have you got an MBA? Have you been on the leadership fast track, managerial fast track, leadership fast track scheme in your organization? If the answer is no to those sorts of questions, the likelihood is you're going to top out at a team leader, junior manager type position anyway, in which case you're looking at smaller organizations. And if you're going to smaller organizations, firstly, the pay for that role isn't going to match your expectations, because your expectations are probably set by, these £250,000 salaries that you might get if you happen to be a properly senior person in a financial institution in New York. So that's going to be a challenge. And also, it's a completely different mindset. If you're looking at being a senior leader in a large organization, your skills are going to be much more around strategy. Your skills are going to be much more around management of finances. You need to have the ability to inspire and lead, but not necessarily do the things. So I don't know. It's very it kind of, it's like almost go back to the drawing board and think this through. And work out where it is you're trying to end up, and be realistic. None of us in TSC would have ever ended up as a CISO in Visa or MasterCard or Barclays or whatever it might be. We're just not. We're very, very, very good at what we do, but we're not the people that would end up in those sorts of roles.
Yeah, and it's funny just looking back somewhat on my career. When I started getting sort of middle management roles, and moving into sort of head of department roles and things like that, I spent about 5 years really missing being on the tools.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a huge chunk of my working life just that was absent. But I would say if this person wants to sort of take their first steps into leadership, then absolutely go for a team leader role where you have some responsibility.
Yeah.
You're not going to jump straight from a security analyst into a CISO role or a head of department role necessarily, but you can certainly get some experience and get a feel for if managing people really is for you, because it is a completely different skill set. Moving into people management and strategy, it's a completely different skill set to being on the tools.
I agree, and there's kind of two tiers to this. There's managing is not the same as leading.
No, that is true.
People who have skills as managers often make pretty poor leaders, and good leaders are often pretty awful managers. The difficulty is that the career structure tends to take you through management in order to get to senior leadership, which is sort of where these fast track schemes in large, multinationals come from. That they're avoiding people who have potential to be senior leaders getting stuck managing, where all the HR stuff and the boring, repetitive, non-strategic, just deliver what the person above you wants kind of stuff. People who have got some flair flounder in those roles because they find it frustrating and therefore underperform, because the things they can see that should be being done, they don't have the authority to do. So it is. I don't think aiming to be a CISO is something that the majority of people that say they want to do it is actually what they really want.
Yeah, I think you're far better to have rewarding work in an area that you're interested in and want to grow and develop in, rather than chasing a job title, to be fair.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Now, if this person genuinely believes that at 30, in as an analyst, not even a senior analyst, but as an analyst, if at 30, if they really do want to go into leadership, look at the things that you need in order to get to those positions, and start with, should I take a career break and go and get an MBA?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my gut reaction just to the way they've written this question is that they've suddenly woken up one day, maybe a slightly early midlife crisis, having a bit of a knee-jerk panic reaction as to where their career's going, and they think, right, I need to shoot for the top. But actually, a lot of the joy is how you get there.
Yeah.
It's the steps you take. I mean, um, I loved being on the tools. I loved managing my first team. It was a hell of a learning curve, making that jump from being technical to being hands off. But I enjoyed it, and you keep going and you keep building and broadening your experience. But you'll learn very quickly if managing people and moving into leadership is really what you want. I equally know people that only ever want to be on the tools. People that have been
Yep.
offered promotions into sort of more leadership and strategic roles and have declined them because they're just not interested. They know where their strengths are and they want to play to their strengths.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. People, there are, and I think the people that the people that know what they're good at and enjoy it and stick at it are actually quite rare, and I think they tend to be undervalued in a lot of organisations. So it is quite tricky. There is, and I think there is this pressure from friends and family that why haven't you got a managerial role yet? Um, which is unhelpful, but we've got to be realistic about the fact that it exists.
Yeah,
Um,
and these roles are sort of triangular. you know,
yeah.
there's fewer and fewer roles the higher you get
Have you
because
ever wondered what happens to? Because if you look, you're quite right. There are, and even in our organisation, there are a lot more people working in the SOC than there are people on the SLT.
yeah,
Where do all these people go during their careers?
I have no idea. But if you believe some of the people on YouTube, there was one Australian guy who says everybody should be an entrepreneur, make their millions. And not everybody has access to seed money or the flair for that. But that was his sole point that he thinks everybody should do.
I mean, that is a possibility if you really genuinely want to lead, go start your own business.
Yeah, no thanks.
That's the ultimate test of do you think you are a leader? Well, if you genuinely do, then go and lead your own business. And having done it, and I've only done it once. Some people are serial entrepreneurs. This is the only and probably the only opportunity I will ever have to to do this kind of thing. And yeah, it is kind of scary, but actually, if you really believe that you know how to do something, and you can inspire others with your vision of what good looks like, then go ahead and do it. And we've demonstrated it's possible to have a very successful business by being able to see what there is. It's kind of gap in the market stuff, but
Yeah.
the reality is I can do this better. I know how to do this, and I can see what everybody else is doing wrong, and I would buy that if it was out there. Well, that is the kind of the epitome of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I find interesting is, and again, reflecting on my own sort of personal experience somewhat, is that this person's like chasing a job title or chasing the money, whatever they're doing. Um, but what I've found is that you're actually better off knowing yourself
Yeah.
and knowing the sort of person you are and what you're capable of. So, for instance, I could not be an entrepreneur, could not be a CEO because my personality doesn't lend itself to that. But what I can do is support the CEO, support a business, pull levers, get stuff sorted in the background. I'm personally slightly more of a background player,
Mm,
and you know what? I'm fine with that, and I know that I can do good things in that sort of space. But if you're the sort of person that hasn't woken up and had that epiphany about yourself, then you could just be
yeah.
chasing a dream that might never happen, and it will ultimately lead to disappointment.
Yeah, recognizing aptitude, I think,
Yeah.
is very important, and recognizing aptitude in yourself is very important. And as you say, we're kind of, even this whole discussion has moved into stuff which is much more the sort of things that you're thinking about as a leader or a senior person within an organization. Have I got the right people in the right roles doing the right things?
Mm.
Am I actually able to identify aptitude, or can I only identify previous experience and hope that past performance will be mirrored by future performance, kind of thing?
Yeah.
I You also have to be a little bit brave in that space, and look yourself in the mirror and say, well, no matter how much I want to do something, I'm probably never going to be able to do it. And I've said it before, I probably said it on the podcast before, but no matter how much I admire Picasso paintings, I will never be able to create one. And it doesn't matter how much training, and it doesn't matter how hard I try, I am incapable of doing that. Right. And that's the sort of thing you've got to be able to say to yourself, now, I've really wanted to be, to have this title. Can I actually do the job? And can I actually do the job well enough to warrant taking the risk and going for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been playing guitar for 20 odd years. I'm never going to be the next Jimi Hendrix. I mean, Christ, I'm not even going to be the next person in the next room at the practice studio, and that's fine. And I would say that since realizing the sort of work I can do and the space I occupy, and understanding myself a bit better, I've found my work to be more rewarding now that I've stopped trying to shoehorn myself into
Yeah.
more and more senior roles constantly, because there was a time where I was chasing the money, first house, big mortgage, blah blah blah, years ago, and my wife said, we need more money. I was like, great, that's the problem. Okay, and the solution is promotion or
Yeah.
changing jobs or whatever. And I went through a few jobs chasing it and pushing it, and it just resulted in huge amounts of unhappiness. Whereas in more recent years, I lean more and more into what I can do and what I do best, and I've never been happier.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's
let's kind of, as an analogy, one of the values of our business is that we will focus on making our customers more secure. Our bottom
yeah,
line follows the success of our customers. If our customers are doing more business because they're secure, we've assisted in that, we're going to do fine. And we've demonstrated over the last 6 years that, as a principle, that works exceedingly well. Well, it kind of works on a personal level as well.
yeah,
If you find you are good at something and you focus on delivering that and delivering benefit through being good at something and delivering benefit to the organizations that you work for, whether in the same organization through promotion or whether moving from organization to organization, as long as what you do delivers benefit to them, you will in fact succeed, even though you're not really trying.
yeah, absolutely. Now I've got this horrible feeling that modern day workers, the workforce, the younger generations and things, and this might be the whole TikTok generation thing, but it feels like they're coming in with the attitude of, what can this business give me?
Yeah.
Whereas I think potentially previous generations were very much the opposite around. What can I give this business? And I know that's a sweeping generalization that I probably shouldn't have made. But I think yes, you have the right to expect to be fairly treated, reasonably well paid,
Absolutely.
blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Yeah.
blah. But you have to be generous with your time and your effort, and you have to deliver. And I think there is an element of selflessness about that, but you have to
Yeah.
be willing to do it if you're going to progress, because to me that's the only way that you're going to expand your knowledge as well. You really do get as much as you give.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we're running very close to the wind with this one, but
Oh yeah.
ending up as a politics podcast rather than a cyber podcast, but I think that there is, I think from a young age, the concept of what work is is what children are taught about what work is has changed over the last maybe 30 or 40 years. There is, if you talk to people of my children's age, their starting point is the reason for having a job is so that the company can give me money and work to do. Okay, they haven't joined the dots around the fact that actually what they're doing is facilitating the success of their business. So they don't therefore get the whole point around what it is you need to do in order to succeed. Nobody in the the reality is just giving people stuff through work has a very limited lifespan. The business has a very limited lifespan. The business is there because it provides benefit to its customers. You're there because you facilitate the delivery of that benefit to those customers. Not the business could give you more but isn't, therefore isn't a good company. And that's just, there's a big disjoint around how it's kind of like how does the economy actually work, and yeah, we're seeing the consequences of that in lots of ways, and perhaps this striving for impressive titles goes on more now than it did before because of that kind of lack of understanding around how stuff actually works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'm so going to get us cancelled one day, aren't I?
oh, if it's not you, it'll be me. Don't worry. Um, the, the thing is, I feel like I've reached the age where I can say some of this controversial stuff. I know it sounds a bit mean or a bit dumb or whatever, but I genuinely do kind of feel this way, and it might be an outdated way of thinking, I suppose. But really, I would say strive for personal happiness and expansion of your knowledge rather than a fancy job title.
Exactly. What are you good at? Okay, and hopefully that's something that that an organisation needs, and then take that as the path. Now, if that happens to be that you are naturally good at leading people, great. Go into leadership. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Some aspects can be taught. We've had great success with over the years. I've had lots of success helping take people out of the forces and into private business because they come with a whole load of really, really good skills, including management and leadership skills that can be reused. But when you look at how those things are developed, the aptitudes are identified very quickly, and there's training courses available in the military that give you that ability, that structure that you need in order to be able to fulfill that potential. And you can bring that stuff and you can run with it, and that's absolutely great. But not everybody is like that. You sign up at 16. Well, very few of the people that sign up at 16 as a squaddy actually end up as a field marshal. Although you don't have field marshals unless you're at war, but they don't end up as a general. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have to play to your strengths, and knowing what those are, I think, is the hardest thing. So this hasn't. I'm sure that the person who wrote this question was expecting I don't know, a fluffy answer that would help them to become a CISO by the end of the week. But unfortunately, the answer is work out if that's really what you want. And if it is really what you want, go and find out what it is that you need not in the way of experience, because experience you'll have to then plan yourself out, but work out where the end game is. And that's not what does the title sound like, it's what should I be doing, what does good look like, how do I measure success in a role like that. And if I can't define that, then I'm probably never going to get there.
Yeah. Yep, wise words. 100% agree.
And I think that has covered it, don't you?
I think so, yeah. Absolutely.
So look, we genuinely hope that this person finds success,
Yeah.
however success is defined, and that, you know, maybe hopefully this is a little bit of a wake up call that the title isn't necessarily the be end and you know, be all and end all of a career. However, if it is, well, great, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Good luck to you, whoever you are.
All right, so that I think is enough for this particular podcast. We will be back again more or less the same time next month, I guess. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Bye bye.